Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Obsidian Extra Lives. I'm player sports specialist Chris Stanick, joined by my special guest, Game Director of Avowed, Carrie Patel.
Hi.
Hello, Carrie. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to be hanging out with Carrie, playing some Broforce, talking about what she does here at Obsidian, how she got here, some other fun questions, while also helping to raise money for the International Rescue Committee to help children and family displaced during the Ukraine crisis. So !donate will get you that information. And before we start the game, Carrie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So my name's Carrie Patel, and I'm a game director here at Obsidian, currently working on Avowed. I've been with the studio for about 8.5 years at this point, primarily in narrative. So I worked on Pillars of Eternity, Deadfire, The Outer Worlds, and directed Peril on Gorgon. And yeah, it's great to be here.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. No, we're not going to get any Avowed information. Avowed is a game. That's pretty much all we got.
We're avowed to silence.
Yes, we are avowed to silence. What are all the jobs that you have done leading up to now? While you're in a moment of difficulty and things like,
Woo!
oh.
That worked out.
Nice.
Let's see. So after school, I was in transfer pricing at one of the big four accounting firms for 2 years. Realized that wasn't really for me, and focused on novel writing for 2 years. Liked that a lot better, but I still missed having kind of a more collaborative environment. I did miss like the structure and human interaction of, goodness, I keep doing that, don't I? Of, again, a more traditional workplace. Like, novels are great, but it's a very isolating way to work. So I was, I'd always been, enjoyed games and enjoyed the story aspect of games. So it was, someone's writing these stories, someone's doing all of this. Maybe that's something I can do.
What first got you into games and to just be so into them enough to help make them and work on them and write for them and all these things that you do?
I grew up playing them with my sisters and with my dad. I have a lot of fond memories actually, when I was growing up and we'd go on road trips somewhere. Our mom would bungee cord one of those tiny little kitchen TVs, into the back of the Suburban.
Okay.
And plug it into the lighter socket or something and hook up the Nintendo, and my sisters and I would all take turns, keeping ourselves busy on the car ride. I was talking to my youngest sister not long ago, and she was joking it was very hard to find the system that seemed fair and equitable to everybody because she was the youngest, and so she would die the most often. And so if we do one life and then you'd hand it over, she'd be you and Julie would play for 30 minutes, and then I'd fall into a hole, and it's I guess that was my turn.
Yeah, I run into that issue with my son when we play games.
Yeah.
He's you were really good. I was I practice.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll give him some extra turns. Sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah.
Depends on how he was that day. What made you reach out to Obsidian, or had you played some of our games prior to that, or you were just taking your shot in the dark?
There was a lot of it that was, worked out with the timing. So, when I was looking, I remember thinking where to begin? Because there are a lot of studios, a lot of different kinds of games I enjoy. What did I do? Oh yeah, I remember thinking all right, let's be smart about this. And there was an article I'd read talking about studios and designers kind of best known for narrative in the industry. And I almost had it. And I remember Obsidian came up during that, and it's well, golly gee, if I'm, trying to get into narrative, this is probably a good place to start. Let's see which of these studios are hiring. And at the time, Obsidian was hiring for the first Pillars of Eternity game. I'm going to keep doing that.
Sorry, we've got time. Plus, if you're not failing on a stream, you're not really streaming. So, what was your title then?
Narrative designer.
Narrative designer. What was different from, I imagine collaboration is one of it, but besides that, I guess how far was the project going by when you joined?
They were fairly early in production, but they were in production. So I definitely got the benefit of, getting to see not necessarily a project from fully from beginning to end, but getting to see one through at least most of the production cycle, which was very valuable to me, obviously, as, you know, being new.
And then for those who don't know, what kind of goes in the production cycle?
That's basically the making of the game. So pre-production is, you know, usually you have a smaller team kind of focused on your core leadership. See, he's great situationally.
Yeah, he really is.
Oh, man.
You just
Yeah,
that whole group
there we
of
go.
them. Ooh, nice.
Thank you. See, every once in a while, I'm lucky or good. I don't know. Probably lucky. Yeah, so pre-production is where you're, you know, coming up with your plans. It's usually focused on kind of a smaller leadership team. It's, you know, let's figure out kind of what we're making, our general, you know, timeline, that sort of thing. And then production is, all right, we've got our plans, we've got our processes. Now we just make the game. So yeah, it's you're building levels, writing dialogues, setting up encounters, scripting quests, basically all the meat of the experience.
Okay, so like the pre-production is the planning, the systems, kind of stuff like that, and then when you're in production, you're making the assets, you have what you're doing, and you're just full force, like full blow, just making stuff for the game.
Yeah, basically.
No longer like, well, what if we do this? Or I mean, that stuff will come up, obviously, through playtesting and changes. But,
yeah.
But for the most part, you have a pretty good plan.
You have a plan, you're executing on the plan.
What is the difference between a game writer and a narrative designer? Or if there is one?
That's an interesting question, and it varies from studio to studio. So at Obsidian, writers and narrative, like we call ourselves narrative designers, we do both. I think at studios that segment the role a bit more, the writer is the person who will like write your dialogue, potentially write your story, like fill in your script essentially, and a narrative designer is more likely to be someone who's either involved with either the systems, you know, either that your narrative or that your writing team is using, the different sort of, you know, systemic elements and mechanics that, you know, tie into your story, and to some degree, like possibly the, you know, the more big picture kind of story aspects of the game. You know, again, apart from just like writing characters, writing dialogue. So, yeah.
Do you prefer writing for characters or flavor, like world building dialogue, or even just like all the books that you find in games, or little notes and things that have fun tidbits in them?
I think I definitely like writing characters best. Occasionally, like, I mean, there's definitely some really fun stuff you can do with like examinables, you know, lore books, other little tidbits. And those are oftentimes, you know, great spots to have, you know, either some kind of Easter egg or like a smaller reward for attentive players where you can, you know, expand on a particular story in a, you know, in a surprising or clever way. But yeah, I definitely really love character writing first and foremost.
I wanted to circle back to when you first started here. What was one of the most challenging things about it?
I think one thing you really have to train yourself to do is to sort of, I mean, I think a lot of it's about player empathy, but understand like, how is somebody else going to approach this experience or this piece of content? And it's in part like, what is going to be clear to them, and also what is going to be interesting to them. I think it's very easy to get into sort of like a designer mentality where you're thinking about things in a way that a player probably won't. And, you know, it's like, oh, like you maybe have some really specific ideas or designs, and you're like, oh, this is going to be really, really cool. I've got a neat thing we can do here. It's going to be a new mechanic, but, you know, this will be really neat. And it's like, well, wait, is this neat? Like, how does this feel to someone who doesn't really understand your intentions? Because like I think it's very easy to get into like, well, this idea is neat, but again, if it's something that a player doesn't understand, if we're developing a custom mechanic that the player isn't really familiar with, then we're just sort of setting them up to have to, you know, to have to basically like look it up on the wiki to understand what we're trying to get them to do, and then it doesn't feel fun anymore because they're not really a part of that solution. It's just, you know, we've given them we've given them a puzzle that they don't really have all the pieces for.
What is your opinion on work from home as a game director, and what were the pros and cons?
I think the pros are that it allows a lot of people a bit more flexibility, and there are times when that can be really beneficial to more focused work. Like there are times, especially if you're really like zeroed in on a writing task, where it's like it would be great to sort of be in your own space, free of distractions, and just kind of get things done.
We're okay.
All right, here we go. I think the thing that can be challenging, but there are certainly ways around it, is just kind of finding ways to get the same ease of collaboration that you have in an in-person environment. And that's the thing. Like we obviously have plenty of tools and software where it's like, can you have those meetings and conversations? Absolutely. The real challenge, I think. Oh, there we go.
Nice.
Situationally very good. Is like, but can you get people to have those informal conversations? Which is where I think a lot of the most effective collaboration comes from.
Like that creative spark is randomly talking to somebody and like, oh, what if we did this? And
exactly, and like are they are people kind of getting together casually enough to sort of know what's going on in particular levels and other areas.
Ooh,
That was a bad idea.
that guy's a hero.
Oh no. Well, that's fun.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying, because there are times where I get a lot done when I'm at home. And then other times like, oh, there's some home things going on.
Right.
And
yeah.
then it's way easier for me to walk over to your office and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Instead of being like, oh, let me type up on Teams. Wait.
Yeah.
Bye. Oh, I went over here. So definitely does seem like, I mean, some people really loved it.
Oh, yeah.
I needed to be back. I needed people.
Yeah, I think
Rough way to go.
the biggest thing to try to work around is just, when, like you'll hear people say, oh, I wanted to know about this, but I didn't want to go bother this person. And it's like, no, like we're working on this game together. Like collaboration is the job. So it's, if you were in the office, you would swing by to ask about this.
Yep.
So how can we get you comfortable with having that same level of just informal communication that you would have had if you were, in office with everybody?
Since it's the season, because we're in Phantom E3, right? How do leaks impact your team and overall morale?
I don't know. I've been fortunate in that I don't think I've seen one that's felt truly disastrous. It's always disappointing because, you spend a lot of time working on something, and I do believe that kind of how you introduce it to your fans and the public can matter a lot to how it's received. But it's, it's just like anything else. Like when someone comes and sees sort of your half-completed work and starts to form an opinion on it before you're able to put it in context. Like if I'm partway through a dialogue and someone's like, let me see how this dialogue is going, and they just take a peek at it and they're like, well, this isn't really ready yet. It's like, I know, it's work in progress.
Yeah.
Like, unless you want to have a conversation about what a work in progress means here, please don't judge this.
Yeah.
So it can create some unfortunate expectations, challenges, and and again, a lot of times you're also just looking at something that either doesn't have the proper context, for either the state of development it's in or something like that.
I also look at it like in the way of announcements or things like that. You're almost opening your Christmas presents before.
Yeah.
And it kind of, everybody in games works super hard on the game and wants it to do well and wants everyone to like it, and they want you to be just as surprised. And so when that happens, it kind of takes away from that and people's surprise and to share that with you, right? The excitement of that and to see that thing out in the wild and how people react to it. Don't open your Christmas presents early or shake them. Not shake them. All right, so do you want to actually see what bug you're picking out, or do you want to roll the dice and just pick a bug out?
I'll roll the dice.
All right, I appreciate that.
About being spontaneous and chaotic today.
That's right.
I think I gotta look at it.
God, what is this?
It's a cricket head. Oh, it's a grasshopper.
I'm gonna have to look because I can't.
That's what
I'll
I
just
got.
pick one I haven't eaten yet. Does this really mix? It just seems like all crickets. All right, well, that's a big one. Hello, little friend. Eating bugs on a Thursday. Did you used to fish all the time?
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, Yop. Oh, the head is really
That's
not good.
Pretty good.
I don't like the head taste.
I think I just have to not think about what it is, but it's just kind of crunchy.
It's very dry.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like the bran part of Raisin Bran, like the really crispy little ones, like at the bottom, like the burnt ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is like burnt bits. After the Outer Worlds, so then that's right, you were narrative lead or director, narrative lead director on Parallel Gorgon?
I was a game director.
So you went from that right to game director.
Yes.
What was that like as far as you've already worked on some of like the team stuff and leadership things going forward, but do you feel like, because I guess I always, and I don't know if anybody else has any ideas or opinion on this, but to me, I always thought a game director prior to being here would be like, oh, you're a programmer or you're specifically game designer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting that we have game directors from all different disciplines.
We do, yeah.
Is that a common thing that you know of, or is that just something we do because people are like, hey, you'd be good at this and you want to take a chance?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I would be surprised if it weren't at least somewhat common, just because I feel like, you know, the interesting thing about, I feel like game direction is, I don't know, I think there are a lot of ways to approach it and a lot of ways you can sort of like, you know, find your specific leadership style and kind of orient yourself around your team. And, you know, every person and, you know, every discipline is going to bring kind of some different skills and experiences to that, all of which can be very useful. So I feel like it's, you know, pretty healthy to have some variety there.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Things you know you're more familiar with about the game you're making and, yeah, can benefit and impart to your team and all that.
I guess I have one for you, and because it's something I've noticed since I've been here, and it's probably the industry or maybe it's just people in general, and I just don't change jobs. A lot of people go from different studios frequently, right? Like a year or two here, a year or two there. What made you want to stay at Obsidian for going on, 8.5 years now?
Honestly, I've been very happy here. I enjoy the work. I've had some incredible opportunities to grow my career. You know, I think for a lot of people, oftentimes moving is, you know, moving to a different studio is an opportunity to find mobility if you don't have any, or if you don't have any in your current position. And again, like I've been very fortunate in this regard, and you know, having opportunities to grow as a designer and as a lead on my teams. So I've been very happy with all that.
I'm also very happy here. It's great.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure I know your opinion about crunch.
Uh-huh.
It's not great.
It's not great.
How does a team avoid it from happening, or is it a necessary evil to make large-scale projects like video games? And feel free if you don't want to go into like specifics or anything. Like,
No, I think that's a really important question.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, I think we really try to avoid it. Have we done so perfectly? No. I mean, I do, one thing I do appreciate about the studio is I think our projects and our studio and project leadership really do try to avoid that and try to maintain a healthy and balanced dev environment, which I think is why one reason you have a lot of people who have stuck around for so long.
It's a really good point. Ooh.
Hang on a little longer. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Crunch to me feels emblematic of a failure of something else, and a lot of times it's like a failure to plan or scope properly, or, you know, a failure of discipline in a key moment when you've got, you know, your eyes get a bit bigger than your stomach and you're trying to do something that you don't necessarily have a great plan for.
Would feature creeping lead to that as well?
Definitely. And I think, the interesting thing is I think there are a number of habits on dev teams. I think the GDC talk about this year.
Okay.
Where, you know, again, with the best of intentions, you know, people want to do big, great things, but in the process, they end up signing themselves and their teams.
Oh no, you had arm stamina.
I didn't realize that.
I didn't either.
Oh, learning new things. That you don't necessarily have the time or the schedule or necessarily even the tech to implement. And so you can run, shooting for a big idea, you can run the team into a lot of churn and crunch trying to do something that you're just not really ready to do as a team. I think we should avoid it. I think it is a shame to see not only how often many people feel compelled to leave studios and studios that make wonderful games, but also how short many people. We're getting a little farther every time, though. I'm all about progress.
You really are. And I was going to say, like, that guy's got it out for you, but he's getting backed into a wall pretty soon.
But also just how much shorter I think many job tenures in our industry are, like people with 5 or more years of experience, I think are more senior, like on the senior side of the average, which is pretty astounding when you think about it. So I think, making sure that we're creating healthy work cultures, sustainable work cultures, and also work cultures that can support people who may not have, the time or the flexibility or the support to put in the kinds of hours that I think many people have seen as normal.
Yes, I think that's a good point. Is just not normalizing it, right? Like,
yeah.
You should spend your weekends
yes.
not working. You
Enjoy
should spend
your
time with your family and your friends and whatever it is that you do, and work will be back here for you when it's time to go to work.
Exactly.
I think it's about a balance.
Yes, definitely.
Question. Regarding creating races, any advice on creating them and giving them their own unique feel? This is something I'm struggling with, interestingly enough, with elves of all things.
Interesting. Yeah, I think, I think one thing is, I don't know, like with a lot of world building, thinking holistically about, where things fit in the rest of your world, and avoiding kind of the easy tropes and answers of like, oh, well, it's this way because elves are like this in games. It's like, well, not necessarily. They can be whatever you want them to be. And I think you get to more interesting games and concepts. Well, I mean, in any kind of fiction, really. When you're digging just a little deeper and trying to get to like, okay, but why are we saying things are this way instead of just taking it as a given, I guess.
Yeah, because I mean, you're right. You can easily be like, well, elves, they're like wise and they're smart and they're very good looking, like very attractive and young, but they're all honest and good. But it's like, what if you applied more realistic characteristics to them, and why are they like that? And things such in that nature.
Yeah.
Also, if I'm saying these things, you're like, oh no, that's not it. But I'm going to say yes. Say no, that's not it. Like.
I think getting to the why, and again, I think being careful about falling into kind of easy tropes and stuff like that.
I think one thing that I hope everyone's gotten out of this is when people are making games, very rarely do they do something without thinking it through.
Overthinking it, for sure.
Yeah. So they're not like, because I probably said it before I was in the industry, but why would they do this? This doesn't make sense. And to just assume that they didn't think about it. They think about it, like a lot. Maybe more than sometimes it should be. We raised some money for some kids and ate some bugs.
It was fun.
It was good.
Good afternoon.
It was really good. I think, that's a work day, right? We should just call it here at 3:30?
Yeah.
Awesome. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks everybody who donated, asked questions, and hung out. We always really appreciate it. Thank you again, Carrie, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And have a great day and a great rest of your week. See you guys later. Bye. I got to work on a better exit. They all saw that too.